We see a small deserted island littered with garbage. Plastic, old crates, empty cans, all that is left after a shipwreck. There's a man walking slowly across this filthy island. It's Hank Thompson. He looks as if life has long ago drained him of all his strength. Dirty, emaciated, with complete indifference in his eyes, he stands on a mini fridge. Next to him is a gallows made of twigs and ropes. He doesn't want to live alone anymore. And he is about to take the last step, but at that moment his gaze lingers on something strange on the shore. He can't believe his eyes. Where the waves were crashing on the sand, there was a human body. Hank falls to the sand. Not believing his eyes, he gets up and runs to the corpse. But his joy is short-lived, the man is dead. But the body behaves strangely. It starts to make noises. Unpleasant, very loud noises. The body starts to move, gasping. It's like it's inflating and slowly drifting toward the water. Hank stares at it with his mouth open. He dives into the water, grabs the corpse and climbs on top of it. Using the corpse raft, he tries to row and steer the strange craft. A smile appears on his face, the first in a long time. The island is left far behind. There is a vast ocean all around, but Hank is not the same man he used to be. He tasted freedom and seemed to have found what he had lost long ago, hope. A rush of emotions distracts him, and he loses control of the vehicle and falls into the water. Hank wakes up on the beach, feeling the warm sand beneath his toes. His hungry gaze clings to a package of cheese sticks lying right in front of him. This little miracle gives him a real euphoric feeling. Grabbing the sticks, he eats them with such relish as if they were the best meal of his life. Next to him lies his dead savior. Hank thanks the corpse with all his heart. Realizing he can't stay still, Hank decides to go deeper into the woods. But he can't leave his friend behind, even though he's dead. Dragging the body is not an easy task. In addition, the corpse is constantly gasping loudly, which prevents Hank from moving. Soon they come across a pile of trash left behind by one of the men. Among the old bottles and scraps of paper, Hank finds champagne corks. Without thinking long, he uses one of them to knock out the cork. He also takes with him a magazine with semi-nude models. During the night, a downpour begins. Hank finds shelter in a cave, where he begins to collect rainwater in a glass he finds. Placing it on his knees, Hank falls asleep to the sound of the rain. In the morning, he suddenly discovers a new feature of the corpse. Liquid begins to pour from its mouth. Desperate, Hank drinks this water, which unexpectedly turns out to be usable. When the flow of water stops, strange wheezing sounds start coming from the dead man's chest. Frightened at first, Hank hears a name in these sounds, Manny. Then he decides to call his dead friend by that name. Turning to the corpse, Hank suddenly hears a response. Stunned for a second, he becomes enthralled. It took him a long time to believe that the corpse could talk. True, his vocabulary is limited, because Manny does not remember anything and does not understand anything in the world around him. They decide to continue their journey, and on the way Manny becomes interested in a magazine with semi-nude models, which causes him an unexpected physiological effect. After a few hours of traveling, they decide to take a short vacation. During the vacation, Hank shares his personal life with his new friend. In the course of the conversation, it is revealed that Hank's life has been far from happy. He was a shy and complex man who was ashamed of himself and avoided intimacy with people. Manny's unspoken questions touch on painful topics, causing Hank to withdraw into himself. The journey they continue in silence. After wandering all night, the heroes stumble upon a fresh predator's trail. Hank realizes that it is dangerous to linger here, and decides to leave unnoticed. But he stumbles, and he and Manny fall down. Finding themselves in a new cave littered with debris, they regain consciousness. During the fall, Hank's cell phone accidentally turns on and falls out of his pocket, ending up right in front of Manny. A picture of a girl appears on the screen. This causes a violent reaction in the corpse. He is sure that it is his phone, and the girl is his lover. Hank, not wanting to upset his dead friend, supports him in this illusion. He decides to please his friend, so he dresses up, acts out scenes from his social life and gets into the role of Sarah, the girl from the photo. During their adventures together, it turns out that Manny is a real multifunctional tool. He shoots rocks from his mouth and breaks trees. It all ends with a communal toast to a found bottle of vodka. With a sense of a slight hangover and new plans, the heroes set off. They reach a rough river. Crossing it is possible only on flimsy pipes. Crawling heroes get almost to the middle, but cannot withstand the strain and fall. Miraculously, they manage to grasp the cloth wrapped around the protruding iron. Now, dangling above the churning water, they realize that their ordeal has only just begun. During the dangerous fall into the river, Manny experiences fear for the first time. At that moment, The cloth that held them together rips and falls to the bottom of the river. Manny can't swim, so Hank is the first to try to save him. Miraculously, they manage to make it to shore. After settling in for the night, Hank admits that for the first time he feels happy because of him. Although he had a father and family, he always felt lonely around them. He doesn't want to go back to his old life. Afterward, he goes to Sarah's Instagram to check out her page. He sees that the love of his life is living happily with her husband and they have a daughter. Back at Manny's, Hank confesses that the phone belongs to him and the girl in the photo is his secret love, who he once took a picture of on the bus but never dared to talk to her. At that moment they hear the sound of a predator, their lives are in danger, a big bear has appeared. Hank wants to use his friend as a weapon against the bear, but Manny is upset. After all, he had hoped all along that Sarah was his love, and it turns out he was just tricked. Disappointed, he leaves Hank alone to deal with the danger. Hank, trying to reconcile, says that the most important thing in life is not women, but that they have each other. But at this point, Hank himself begins to realize that they both have no goals in this life. No things that inspire them, no things that bring them pleasure. Hank agrees with him that their existence is meaningless, and falls out of the tree right into the bear's clutches. In that moment, he realizes that Manny is his own subconscious, which he created so he wouldn't kill himself. Manny is the part of Hank that dares to be bold, outspoken, and free. Casting aside his doubts, Manny suddenly comes to life and, overcoming his fears, scares the bear away with a heroic act of self-immolation. The next morning, Hank regains consciousness and finds Manny carrying him on his shoulders. Together they take the final steps toward rescue, realizing that they have found in each other not only a means of survival, but a true connection. Manny stops, and suddenly Hank recognizes Sarah's house. As they argue, Sarah's daughter appears in the yard. Upon seeing the strange men, she becomes very frightened and screams in fear. The girl's screams attract the attention of Sarah, who goes out into the yard and sees a shabby Hank and Manny, whose appearance also gives her a shock. Without hesitation, she hurries to call the police. The police, ambulance and even journalists arrive on the scene. Manny's body is placed in a body bag and is about to be taken to the morgue. The cops show Sarah Hank's cell phone. Seeing the picture, the woman is confused. Meanwhile, Hank, unwilling to part with his friend, steals the gurney with Manny's body and flees into the woods. The police and Sarah discover his secret hideout with makeshift buildings. Hank manages to make it to the shore, but unfortunately his pursuers easily catch up with him. He hopes that Manny will show everyone his unique abilities, but he remains motionless. The assembled people pity him, believing him to be a psychologically ill man. When all seems complete, Hank finally accepts himself for who he is and moves away from Manny lying on the shore. Suddenly, however, there is a loud gasp, and Manny's body comes to life. He begins to shake, and then with a satisfied smile on his face, he rides off into the sunset on his jet engine. So ends a strange but touching story about friendship, self-acceptance, and finding meaning in the most unexpected places. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and give the channel a like. See you soon.